right, episode 34, Dynasty Trades in 5. I'm Clay.
I'm Shane. Shane.
I'm Scott. I will double down as Mr. Cam for this evening.
Yeah, so we didn't have anybody for tonight, really, and Scott Connor is going to go first. It's like, how do we do Cam Newton? He's an intriguing little value study here. So go ahead, Scott. Let's see what you got.
Yeah, Cam Newton. We kind of debated before the show, like, is he even something that's worthy talking about in Dynasty? And 2 weeks ago, you would have said no. He was probably just being held on a ton of teams with no end in sight, but yet, a lot of people couldn't stomach to drop him because, at the drop of a dime, he could get a job, and lo and behold, his old team comes a call. And now it took like 3 or 4 screw ups by the Panthers back-to-back years to basically get Cam Newton back. But here he is. He has a runway to start the rest of the year. On a team that's probably going to be in the playoff hunt for the rest of the people are already paying third-round picks for one start. People are paying third-round picks for Geno Smith, third-round picks for Colt McCoy, third-round picks for Case Keenum. You saw those transactions in leagues. Hey, I need a starter this week. So now you have a guy that presumably could start the rest of the season. He has a high ceiling in terms of fantasy upside. We've seen that before. He's probably worth a second at this point. But really, I think the angle to discuss is it sounds like the Panthers are going to give him a shot to play for this year for a contract next year. The money they gave him kind of seems like they think he can still be a starter. You don't pay a guy like that unless A, you're desperate, or B, you think the guy can really play. I think they were both. Cam is just getting thrown around in leagues. I've seen him go for a third. I've seen him go for a second. I've bought a share for a second. So, he's being transacted like essentially he's done after this year. Yep. Yet we have kind of a weaker QB class coming in. We're going to have a quarterback carousel next year with a lot of guys that may not get jobs. Winston hurt. Darnold probably not going to get another job. So I think a guy like Cam has a shot to stick, which means I think he's a buy low at this point.
Love it. Shane.
I like disagreeing with Scott, but I really can't on this one. Cam's a perfect buy low. If you're going to pay a third for Teddy Bridgewater, then you should pay a second for Cam Newton. We know he's got this job the rest of this season, unless he completely tanks. And if that happens, but that's a risk you take with any player. We know he has the job the rest of this year based off the money they gave him. Probably has a job next year if he's anywhere half decent, because again, Sam Darnold's their other option. Sam Darnold's on the roster for next year for $20 million, something ridiculous. They can't move him. He's going to be on the roster, but that doesn't mean that they're going to start him. He's never shown any reason that they should ever go back to him. So if Cam can just come in there and be honestly even decent to good, they're going to go with Cam, and they're not going to have the money to spend on another quarterback to bring in. They're not going to want to spend $70 million at the position between Darnold and another guy. And I can't see them getting a high enough draft pick that they're going to be able to draft a quarterback. They might get one at the end of back of the first round, but that's not a guy that's going to usually challenge for a job right out of the gate.
So do you think you could, and would you want to sell like Daniel Jones for Cam Newton in a second? You think you can get that done, and would you want to do that?
Yes.
Scott?
Yeah, I think the angle is, okay, I'm trading away a quarterback. Can I get a first? If you don't think it's a really strong bet, you can get a first. Then all you're doing is, and that means that guy is probably not locked in as a starter past like next year at the best. You know what I mean? So I think here's the wild card. Cam against a lot of these guys that are at the bottom end of like the QB2s and low or high QB3s, he has a higher ceiling week to week than those guys do.
Yep.
So you're essentially just trying to string along as much time as you can, getting a starter, and you get the pick as a bonus. So I love that deal. I think if you could do that with a lot of guys, that's a nice deal.
About Cam's production is he doesn't even need to be good at throwing. Last year, he wasn't good at throwing. He had 8 touchdowns throwing and 10 interceptions and right around 200 yards passing per game. And he was the QB 15 in points per game. And, and that was with a horrible complement of skill players.
I have Christian McCaffrey and DJ Moore. Why don't I just throw it to them? And I can maybe put up 200 yards passing, and I don't have to do anything. No. You know what I mean?
He could throw for 250 easy, just dumping off to those two guys and letting them do all the work because they're yak monsters.
And get a QB sneak touchdown every other game. He can get you there with not having to be that great.
And then if that gets you the win in real football, Matt Rule's going to love it. They'll keep him. He's the starter next year.
Dude, we're pumped, man. We're gonna go buy some freaking
Buy all the Cam you can.
So what about this? What about moving off of Jalen Hurts? So you give up Jalen Hurts and a third, and maybe get Cam Newton and a 23 first. Would you do that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right. Would you give up Jalen Hurts and a second for Cam Newton and a 23 first?
I'm still getting the first.
Still doing that.
Yeah. You're not making it hard for me. That first is
that's
making
easy.
an easy cash out on Hurts. Yeah.
Now, I think the one thing with Hurts is kind of the same argument we're making for Cam. You can make for Jalen Hurts too. Like if there's just not enough jobs for players next year, then these guys could get squeezed out. But if you think there's going to be open jobs, it's really about the situation. The thing that holds Hurts down a little bit is he's stuck in Philly. You know, if they pick another quarterback, he can't just go somewhere else like Cam could. You know what I mean? He's stuck. So if the team doesn't trade him, but yet they draft his replacement, he could just get buried. That's my worry with Hurts. But I love that idea. I think that's a sweet idea to pivot off Hurts.